I said I'd talk about this game in my strategy RPGs video that nobody watched. But in case you're one of the everybody who didn't watch that video, here is my video on Stella Deus. As you can see with one of my little sticky note, post-it note papers here, this is a digital version that I own. I do not own the physical version, mainly because I would have to get another PS2 to play it. And of course I don't feel like doing that. So I just grabbed it on the thing that I had available a while back. I picked this up and I just now got around to playing, because that's just how backlogs work. You pick something up years and years and years ago, and then you finally get around to it, and and yes, Stella Deus, even as of the making of today's video, is still available on the North American PlayStation 3 PSN network. You just gotta go on there and type it into the search bar. You can't just go to the games list, because most of the games have become unlisted as of now. You have to literally go into the search bar and type the game in to find it. But it'll still be listed, and you can still pick it up. And that's how I did it those many years back. And Stella Deus is one of those games that it's one of those games that makes you wonder how the Atlas behind Persona Shin Megami Tensei, how they fumbled so badly with the story here. Even if a lot of the games are pretty much copy-paste from the previous to the next one, like how Persona 3 was with Persona 4, to how Shin Megami Tensei 5 was to Persona 5. They just copy and paste a lot of the combat mechanics to save time and budget. But they always end up crafting a very good story. Well, this time the story is as bare bones as you could possibly get. The story of Stella Deus opens with our main character, whose name is Spiro. That is S-P-E-R-O, Spiro. Now, Spiro is a swordsman type of character who fights with two swords, and his best friend and / big brother figure is a man named Visor. Visor wears a visor. Buh! And he's an alchemist type of man who has special alchemy powers. And at the start of the game, their little settlement gets raided by a warlord named Dignus. It's D-I-G-N-U-S. Dignus. Spiro tries to fight Dignus's cronies, which consist of Cror, Echidna, and Viper. Right? These are his main cronies, right? Spiro ends up fighting Echidna and loses. Echidna steals Spiro's father's sword, and Spiro vows to get it back, and Visor joins Dignus's army in exchange for leaving their hometown alone. And then we cut to 2 years later. We see Spiro has now joined the Imperial Army and is working with two other party members by the names of Gray and Adara. And then they eventually turn on the Empire, turn on Dignus after witnessing Viper killing innocent civilians. So they end up clashing with Viper quite a few times. And eventually they meet up with Linnea, who is a shaman, priestess of the Anima Kingdom. What is the Anima Kingdom? We don't know. It's maybe some spiritual kingdom. They didn't give you too much information about pretty much anything here, which is very unfortunate, because I really wanted to learn quite a bit about almost everything about going on in this world. I found this world fascinating. I've found everything here fascinating, but there's just so little here that it's just nothing. But After meeting up with Elena, they end up defeating Viper, and they end up collecting Gallant, another character who is Gallant. Well, we learn quite a bit into the story that he is from another part of the Anima Kingdom, fallen Anima Kingdom, living in a small village in the fringes of society. And so the village elder appeals to them to open the Gate of Eternity. What is the Gate of Eternity? The Gate of Eternity is the gate to the spirit realm. You open that, you get all the spirits to come back into the living world, and that will stop the miasma. What is the miasma? We don't know. It's just this little fog that is on the fringes of the world map, and if anything living touches this fog, they die, and we don't like that. We don't like that one bit. And so, years ago, there was this religion called the Aeque, which is a word so foreign, so I have to spell it out for you. It is Aeque, Aeque. And if that means nothing to you, it meant nothing to me when I first heard about it, but then I learned about it, and it's basically a religion that's two sides. It's got two sides of the coin. The first side of the Aeque is ruled by a character called Lumena, and her husband, Avis. It's the V. The V bothers me. A-V-I-S, Pfizer, Vis, whatever. Lumena Avis. That's his name, Avis, right here, yep. Lumena and her husband, Avis. Lumena is the high priestess of the Aeque's nice side. Well, what's the nice side? What does she preach on the nice side? Well, she preaches that the big high deity in the sky says that the end of the world is nigh and you should just accept it and just sit down and die. Dignus looks at this religion and says, you know, this is a farce. You guys are absolutely pathetic. You're not even going to fight for your lives. You're not even going to do anything. Well, fine. If you're going to just sit there, I'm just going to take it all over. And nobody's going to stop me because you're all a bunch of pissants who sit on the ground and just wait to die. And so Dignus ends up reviving a very core component of living, which is the will to live and the fear of death. So you end up agreeing with Dignus a little bit here, saying that, hey, you know, maybe this guy isn't so bad. He's actually trying to get these people to get back into action, even if he's doing it the wrong way. Dignus ends up justifying himself, saying he has never killed anybody who has raised a sword against him. He has only killed those who refuse to do so. So all of the people working for him at one point tried to kill him. Crier, Echidna, Viper. Crier became like a zealot, worshipping Dignus, the ground he stood upon. Echidna is basically a lot like what's-his-face from Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. The one with the ponytail and the katana who fights a lot like Raiden. I keep forgetting his Jetstream Sam, that's it. Jetstream Sam once tried to kill Senator Armstrong, and Senator Armstrong let him live because he had the will to live, the will to fight, and all that stuff. So Jetstream Sam joined Senator Armstrong's retinue in the hopes of getting another chance to kill him later. So that's Echidna, which means if Echidna's technically against Dignus, does that mean she's going to join you? Yeah, yeah, and so will Visor. And quite a few other people, such as Jade, Tia, and is that everybody? Is that all of the playable characters that we can pick up? I think that is everybody. Okay, so we have 4 secret characters, 4 secret party members to collect that you have to do something for. And that's Jade, Tia, Echidna, and Visor. Now, everybody else is playable through the story. That is Spiro, Gray, Adara, Linnea, Gallant, Lumena. Oh, and Prier. I keep forgetting about Prier. That is Priere or something like that. Prier, maybe, whatever. She's not a secret character. She's just part of the main party member. She's the priestess apprentice of Lumena, right? And if you don't know too much, if I'm not explaining too much about these characters, that's because the story doesn't either. And what little the story does give you, I would say it's kind of worth learning about. There's just not a lot there, but there is enough. And you know what? Fine, I'll tell you about them. Each one has like maybe like a couple sentences to describe their character. Spiro, he's the big go-lucky hero man with a lot of idealism, right? Visor is the jaded man accepting the world's destruction but believes his own powers can prevent it. Gray is a tsundere. That's literally his character. He complains a lot and he yells at Spiro, but then always protects him and is the best friend of Spiro, yada yada yada. Dara is just a nice girl, and Gray sticks around because he likes Adara, but he won't reveal his feelings because he's a tsundere, because that's just what tsunderes do. It's just whatever. Linnea ends up partnering with Spiro because she and him are the couple there, yeah. And the only thing she has going for her is she wants to open the gate of eternity and save the world. That's it. That's all. Gallant, he doesn't say much. All he does is say, hey, I can talk to spirits. That's literally all he says. Lumina is the high priestess. You get quite a bit with her. At first, she is all for the Aquays. Just sit down and die. She thinks that the deity on high wants the world to end. But then when you fight her, and then when her sister, Nebula, that's right, another name now, Nebula. When her sister, Nebula, tries to fight our heroes here, Avis, her husband, joins our heroes in the struggle to open the gate of eternity. Lumina finally gets in the way and says, stop this isn't how the religion's supposed to go. And Avis is like, I absolutely believe in the deity on high, I absolutely believe in it, but if he wants this world to die, I will fight him. And that's usually how all these Atlas games go, is if the deity on high wants to end the world, then all the heroes go, but I live here! And then they fight the deity because they live in the world and they don't want it to end because they live here. That's typical, right? Yeah, so Avis does this, and Lumina finally gets the heel face turn and takes a mortal blow for Avis, and Nebula kills Lumina. Lumina gets revived by the deity on high, and she's like, oh, I finally see now. He actually didn't want the world to end. Blah! And so she joins us to stop the world from ending. Typical, yes. Now the other 4 secret characters. Let's talk about how to collect those. Tia's first. Tia is kind of a comic relief kind of character. Oh, and I also have to mention all the main story cutscenes are voice acted, right? Everything is voice acted. But all the side quest cutscenes are not voice acted. Then there's not too many of those at all. And there's barely any at all for the 4 secret characters. There are maybe one side quest for each of those, for 3 of the 4 secret characters. For one of them, there's nothing. There's nothing at all. Which is very disappointing. Very disappointing. The game kind of feels unfinished, honestly. Tia befriends Visor while he's working for Dignus, and Visor's all depressed in the slumps about his friendship with Spiro not going too well, because Spiro wants to save the world and Visor's working for the enemy, so they've become enemies. So Tia wants to stop Spiro's plans so that he can become friends with Visor. She's a little bit naive. But so you end up getting into battle with her a couple of times, and the way to keep her, to recruit her, is to not have her die in battle. In 2 battles, she joins you, and in 1 battle, she's the enemy. And the conditions to win the battle when she's the enemy is to just defeat all of the other enemies, but don't touch her, and the battle will end automatically. So that's what you gotta do. Keep her alive for the 2 fights when she joins you in battle, and then keep her alive for the 1 time she's an enemy in battle. And then, after a couple cutscenes, then in late Chapter 4 or Chapter 5, Tia will join your party. Oh, and you also have to read all of the Tia letters, which are side quests. You open the guild, you go to side quests, and you see a bunch of letters from ... Read all 12 of those, as well as the 3 battle requirements, and then Tia should join you. After she joins you, she has absolutely no cutscenes. She has absolutely no voiced dialogue. She doesn't really appear with everybody else in any story cutscene whatsoever. It's almost like she was completely written out of the game after she showed up in the final main story segment. And that's disappointing. It really is. Even her recruitment cutscene is not voiced. It's very disappointing. One of my favorites of the 4 secret characters, though, is Jade. Jade is just a mercenary. He's just here to make money, and he just happened to get employed by your enemy. That's literally it. He has nothing against you guys. He's just here because it's just work to him, right? So he gets employed to do the mercenary stuff to various other villages, and so Spirio ends up fighting Jade quite a few times. And the requirement to collect Jade is to overkill him. What does that mean? Well, in quite a few story battles, you will have a bunch of bosses such as Krar, Echidna, Viper, and Jade. Those are the main ones. And you'll end up fighting them in boss fights. But you don't have to get their HP to 0 for you to satisfy the conditions to win the battle, because story-wise you don't actually defeat them. And for example, when you first fight Echidna, you get her HP down to like below half or just above critical, and then she ends the fight immediately. But to satisfy it, to overkill, you have to deal more damage than they have left. So, for example, if they end the battle prematurely, when they get down to 1500 HP and they have 1600 HP remaining, then in a single attack, you need to deal over 1600 HP worth of damage to overkill them. That's how you manage to defeat them before they end the battle prematurely. So you have to do this for Jade, to all of Jade's fights, to recruit him. And one of the fights with him is a tricky one, because he will end the battle if you kill too many of his henchmen. I believe it's like 6 henchmen. If you kill about 6 of them, he will end the battle prematurely. I recommend just flying straight for Jade and taking him out with a big 5 to 6 member team attack, and that should satisfy the overkill and take him out, provided you're a decent enough level. And you do this for every fight that Jade's in, and he gets sick of fighting against you, and then you'll get a side quest open up. You go to that side quest, and Jade's like, "Oh, come on, you guys again?" And so you fight him one last time, you have to overkill him, and then he says, "You know, you guys are just gonna keep getting in my way no matter what work I end up getting." And so he says, "You know what? How about I come work for you? That way, you guys won't get in my way," and all that stuff. And so he joins you as an employee mercenary, and that's the only cutscene. That's the last cutscene we get of him until his final rank up. We'll talk about some rank ups too. But he gets one more cutscene in a rank up mission in Chapter 5, which is the final chapter of the story. You get his final rank up mission, and you get the last cutscene you'll ever see with Jade, and after that cutscene, you'll never see him again in the story at all. He's there with you in battle for all of the fights and all that stuff, but you will never see another cutscene with him again. And so what's next? Echidna. How do you collect her? Well, it's very simple to get her. You only get 2 boss fights with Echidna, just 2. The first one, I believe, is in like Chapter 2 or Chapter 3, and you just have to overkill her. It's the same thing with Jade. You have to get her HP to 0, not just get it down to criticals and she'll end the battle prematurely. No, you have to get her HP to 0. So you're going to have to overkill. You have to deal some massive damage into a single attack, which normally you could do with a team attack, which is, we'll talk about that in a minute once we get to the gameplay portion. Sadly, you can't collect Krar, but Linnea's an archer, Krar's an archer, so she's fine. She's the fine, unique character. You don't need to use him. But you do need to overkill him, because for the 4th... Oh, right. for the second battle with Echidna, that's in Chapter 5, right? But you need to meet a few conditions before you fight Echidna. Spiro needs to get his final rank up, which happens in Chapter 5. You need to satisfy a few requirements first, and once you satisfy those requirements, you get his final rank up, and he will become a samurai. And once you see his rank up as samurai, then you challenge Echidna in the story battle in Chapter 5, where you fight her, and then you have to overkill her a second time. And do that, and she'll give you her whole story about how she's the enemy of Dignus. She's just waiting for an opportunity to kill him. He lets her live because she keeps fighting him. That's what Dignus values, people who fight him. He wants people to get stronger so that he can fight stronger and stronger opponents, because that's all Dignus cares about. And so Echidna joins you in the battle against Dignus if you satisfy those requirements, right? And she'll give you his father's sword back. What's next? Visor is the final and fourth character that you can collect, and you get him at the absolute last opportunity, because there is basically so after the fight with Echidna, you get one more story fight, which is Visor. And then the next 3 story fights are on rails in a gauntlet type of fight, where you don't get an opportunity to save your game afterwards. Which means that after the fight with Visor, that's literally the end of the game. And to satisfy the recruitment requirements to collect Visor into your party, you have to overkill 5 or 6 of 9 opportunities. I did all 9 just to be safe. There are 3 fights with Viper where you have to overkill him, or 2 fights with Viper you have to overkill him, 2 fights with Echidna that you have to overkill her, 2 fights with Krar that you have to overkill him, and 2 fights with Jade that you have to overkill him. So 2, 4, 6, and actually, yeah, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. And you get one more fight with Visor in, I believe, Chapter 3, where you have to overkill him. So 9. You have to satisfy this one. You do have to satisfy this requirement, overkilling Visor, and then you have to do 5 of the other 8, or something like that. And if you overkill these guys, then you'll collect them. But if you're trying to collect all 4 party members, you're going to get Visor regardless, because you have to overkill Jade all the times you fight him, and you have to overkill Echidna all the times you fight her. That's 5 already, so there you go. If you're trying to collect everybody, you're going to get Visor. And so he joins you at the very last opportunity for redemption, for atonement, because he thinks Spiro killing him will not undo all of the damage he has caused. So he joins you for atonement to help you stop Dignus and the end of the world and all that good stuff. That's the story, right? You could pretty much complete this story in a couple hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours. The battles will be long if you're low leveled, though. And there are not enough battles to complete this game if you just do the story battles. You're going to have to do what is called the catacombs. The catacombs. You're going to have to do the catacombs, which is the next thing here. There's no random battles in this game. There are no random battles in Stella Deus. So there are only story battles, and then there are catacombs fights. Catacombs range from floors 1 to 100. 1 to 99 represents levels 1 to 99 for the average level of enemies you're going to find. The max level that your party members can achieve is level 99. So obviously, on floor 99 and floor 100, the enemies are also level 99 on floor 100, but we'll get to that one. You're going to be fighting enemies close to your level at every stage of the game when you're doing catacombs fights, if you're trying to level up your characters. The ways your characters level up is by taking action. You only need 100 XP for every single level, but there is a catch, there is a caveat. Your XP dwindles when you fight enemies weaker than you. For example, if you kill a level 1 enemy and you're level 10, you may only get 1 XP point for killing it, which means you're going to have to kill 100 level 1 enemies to level up, and then you're going to have to kill 100 more to level up again. But if you fight a level 12 enemy and you're level 10, you might get 20 experience points, which means you only need to attack a level 12 opponent 5 to 6 times to level up. That's how they work experience points in here, and that's how they make it take a while but also feel rewarding, but also make you try to fight people close to your level so that you can always level up. But there is an exploit that I would like to inform you about, and that is the quick heal exploit. Quick heal is a level 1 spell that you can fuse in item fusion, which, if I haven't talked about it yet, I'll talk about it in a moment. You can fuse this in the guild for item fusion, and you could teach this spell to anybody in your party who doesn't automatically learn it. It only costs 10 MP to cast, and you will gain experience just by taking action. Not by killing your opponent, but by taking action. Any action. Which includes casting a healing spell on a party member. For example, let's say you teach Quick Heal to Avis, who joins the party at maybe level 8. And let's say Linnea is level 15. Right? You teach Quick Heal to Avis, and then have Avis cast Quick Heal onto Linnea, who is level 15. Avis is probably going to gain 22 to 28 experience points every time he casts Quick Heal onto Linnea. And he'll continue to gain that much experience points every time he casts Quick Heal onto Linnea, until he gets to maybe level 13. Once he's level 13, it'll start becoming more like 13 to 18 experience points. And then once he becomes level 14, it'll maybe become more like 7 to 13 experience points every time. And then once he becomes level 15, when he casts it on Linnea, it'll probably be like 2 to 8 experience points. And then after that, once he becomes level 16 and higher, if he starts casting onto Linnea, it'll be like 1 experience point. So that's the trick to have any new party member who joins your team and you're a really high level and you need to have them catch up so that you can use them in story battles and whatnot. You want to go to Catacombs level 1. Catacombs level 1 has the average level of your enemies be level 1. And if you're level 8 to 15 or something like that, which most characters that don't automatically join you are going to be joining you around that level, then in level 1 of the Catacombs, they're going to be taking very little damage, maybe like 1 to 5 damage of HP every time one of these enemies try to attack you. And eventually, they're just going to miss every attack because your evasion's too high for their attacks to even hit you ever. And you just spend all of that time taking out 5 of the 6 enemies on the Catacombs so that there's only 1 enemy left, taking turns trying to attack you and missing every time. And then you use that fight to have all of your party members cast Quick Heal onto your highest level party member and just go through that, taking turns doing that until they run out of MP. They'll probably gain 5 to 6 levels every time you do this. It'll maybe take about 30 minutes every round of quick healing trials you do, but you'll gain 5 to 6 levels for each party member every time you do this, and you can have a total of 6 party members in your party for every fight. So if you take your high level party member and 5 low level party members, then you will gain a total of 25 to 31 levels split up between the 5 party members, and it'll be really fast, is what I'm trying to say. The main challenge, and the most time-consuming endeavor, is also going to be the Catacombs. Because you could beat this game's story roughly around levels 40 to 50. Once you reach that level, which isn't really that hard to do, and you get the legendary weapons, which are available in Chapter 5 side quests, You can collect these for all of your party members, which you could do easily, roughly around 55 to level 60. You collect everybody's legendary weapons, which is roughly an equivalent of a tier 12 weapon, which isn't that bad. It's a pretty decent tier weapon. If you collect those for all of your party members, then you should have little problems defeating Dignus in the final series of fights. Once you do that, you collect everybody that you want, like Visor and all that stuff, you could beat the game roughly around level 45 to 50. It's not that hard at all. But you also have floors 50 to 100 of the catacombs that you can do, side quests. There are side quests that start to unlock once you reach chapter 5 of the story. And only up to floor 50 will unlock in the catacombs story-wise. Once you reach chapter 5, floor 50 is the final thing. So if you don't do any of the side quests, you will only ever have up to floor 50, which is basically the game telling you you really only need to be up to level 50 to beat the story. So everything after this is optional. So if you don't care about this, then you're done. And that's kind of disappointing, though, because it's very short. After you do all of this stuff here, get to level 50 and all this stuff, it's probably going to take you maybe 10 to 20 hours if you are savvy with time management and using the quick heal exploit just for 6 party members and using those 6 to beat everybody and all that stuff. If you just care about that, it's not going to take you that long at all. It's not going to take long at all. But me, I decided to do all 100 floors of the catacombs. I did not decide to collect every item in the game, though. I did not decide to fuse every item in the game. I did not decide to level everybody up to level 100. I decided to level up just 6 people to level 100. And I decided to get the final tier weapon, which is a tier 16. 16 is the highest tier item you can fuse. And it takes quite a while to do this, but luckily there's an exploit. On floor 50 of the catacombs, there will be a single enemy, which is an alchemist enemy, a generic. Every enemy in the catacombs is a generic unit. The alchemist on floor 50 knows an ability called Statue. And Visor, when he joins your party, will be the only character in the party who automatically learns an ability called Get AS. Get AS is ability skill, which basically is a spell or an ability attack that any character can use in battle. For example, Adara is more like a spellcaster. Quick Heal is a spell. So Quick Heal is an AS that you would equip to your skill slots in your AS level, AS menu, whatever it's called. I believe you can equip up to 5 once you rank up your characters enough. You can equip up to 5 ability skills, Quick Heal being one of them. So Get AS, what this means is if Visor kills an enemy who has any AS skills equipped, if there is an item that teaches that ability, that item will be given to you at the end of the fight. For example, the enemy on floor 50 who knows Statue as a spell will drop an item called the Stone Alchemy, which teaches Statue to any character who you give it to. But you don't want to teach this ability to anybody. You want to use this in item fusion. So you're going to want to use Visor on this floor to kill this alchemist. You can only get 1 Stone Alchemy. I think you can get multiple if you put certain accessories and equiptions onto your characters. I didn't care to do that. I didn't bother to do that. But I just took Visor into the fight and had him kill this alchemist a bunch of times to collect a bunch of Stone Alchemy items, and I fused those with a bunch of other tiers 9 to 11 items to fuse other higher tier items. Use the Stone Alchemy as a tier 14 item. It's the only tier 14 item you can get as a drop in the catacombs, and of all 100 floors. So you take this item and you fuse it with a bunch of other stuff, and then you create your tier 16 weapons a lot easier, a lot faster than you normally would otherwise, which enables you to deal quite a bit of damage. Tier 16 weapons are very good. But let's talk about the combat now. This is the part where we're gonna have to use another stick. You know, this is a tactics role-playing game, okay? Where we have a lot of stats, we have a lot of numbers. There's a lot of things to talk about. I'm gonna try to keep it to just the basics. Just the basics. You can keep up to 6 units at a time. So we have 6 units. Your party members are named characters. These are unique units. These are what I call your uniques. Spiro, Visor, Gray, Adara, Linnea, Gallant, Lumena, Avis, Prier, Tia, Jade, and Echidna. Those are the party members that you can have in your party as unique members. But there are also generics that you can collect, which are basically recolored units of the generic units that you fight in the catacombs. These are basically fighters who equip one of each of the weapon types, such as a sword, a katana, dagger, bow, spear, alchemical items, and staves. I believe that's 7, right? I think that's everybody. Oh, and an axe, 8. So you can have up to 8 generic units as well in your party. And these generic units will not be as strong as your uniques, but the best part is you can use them in the earlier parts of the battle. Oh, wait, 9, actually. Knuckles, fisticuffs items. So that's 9 generic units. And each one of these has an actual unique character archetype. For example, Spiro is the katana user. Gray is the spear user, Adara is the alchemical item user, Linnea is the bow user, Gallant's the axe user, Lumena and Prier are both staff users, both Avis and Visor are sword users, Echidna is technically also a katana user, but she can only equip 1 katana, Spiro can equip 2, Jade is a dagger user, and Tia is a knuckles user. So everybody has all of the weapon types already in your unique units, so there's no reason to use generic units once you collect all of the unique units. If you fail to recruit Jade and Tia, then the generics of the Knuckles user and the Dagger user will be your only Knuckles and Dagger users in the entire game. So you're going to want to collect these two, and it's not too difficult to collect them, you just need to know what you have to do before you do it. And that's usually what I always end up doing when I look up things. I look up missables, because I tend to only give these games a single playthrough. I want to know missables. I want to know secret characters. I want to know how to collect those before I get to those requirement stages, so I know what to look out for, what to prepare for, what to do with that. If you don't like playing this way, then you're probably not going to be collecting these 4 characters, which is a big shame, because they're all very good characters. I would recommend doing it. There's just not a lot to do in this game. There really isn't. So collecting these 4 characters, it gives you part of the gameplay, part of something to do, to work towards, and all of that stuff. What else? What else? Movement. Let's talk about movement. Movement. So when it's your turn, right? When it is your turn, you will be able to move your character, or you will be able to attack. Now, also, during the movement phase, movement and attack are all based on AP. Now, all of this is going to be taught to you in the tutorial section. The tutorial is going to be available to you for the entire game. So if you ever forget something, you can just open the tutorial and learn about this. So I'm not going to teach every single thing about how to play this game, because you could teach yourself if you play this game. Because it's all there. The entire thing about how to play every single aspect of the game is going to be in that tutorial section. There are playable sections to learn about things, like all of this stuff, like team attacks and all this stuff. And there are also definitions, like an encyclopedia thing, where you click each item and it just gives you a text box telling you what that item is and what that item does and all of that stuff. So there is a bunch of stuff here that you could just look up and all of that stuff. But here's a couple things that the tutorials don't tell you. for movement, attack, AP, and weight. When it comes to weight, higher weight on your character will have lower movement. These two are tied together. And the way to reduce the weight or to increase the amount of weight your character is able to carry without lowering movement will require you to level up. That is pretty much the only way to increase the amount of weight your character can carry. There is no specific individual stat, to my knowledge, that you can increase that will reduce your character's weight capacity. So you want to keep your movement stat as low as possible, because the lower your movement stat is, the more you can move in battle. For example, if your movement is, say, 21, you will only be able to move a radius of, say, 4 spaces when it's your turn. This will require you, each space you take, each step you take, each square you move forward will cost AP. Every time you take a turn, you will have 100 AP in your ability pool, your action points pool, when it is your turn. You don't have to use all 100 points on your turn, but anything from movements, attacks, spells, it's going to cost action points. So you can do a thing called move and attack. But if your weight is, if your movement is over 21 due to carrying heavy gear is more like higher tier equipment. This is a game mechanic for balancing purposes, because they don't really want you carrying tier 16 stuff on a level 1 character. Because it is possible to do this, it's just going to take a very, 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 very long time to do it, but it is possible to fuse tier 16 items before your very first fight. Well, a story fight, that is. You could do the Catacombs fight tier 1 and keep doing that over and over and over until you gain enough gold to fuse tier 16 gear. It's going to take forever. It's going to take maybe hundreds of hours, but it is doable. But it's more realistically to say, if you're level 1, they don't want you fusing tier 5 to 6 gear, which is a lot more doable, a lot faster to do. But it will be heavier. Every higher tier gear is heavy. Every type of heavy gear you put onto your character will increase the movement stat, lower their action ability, and if that movement goes from 21 to 25, then this will go from 4 to 3, and it's just going to be until you're not able to take a single step. Each step is going to cost you 50 action points. You're never going to be able to attack a single enemy. Everybody's going to get out of your way, and you won't be able to get up to them because your movement is too high. So I generally try to keep my character's movements around 10 or below. 10 will give you a movement pool of maybe 7 to 8 squares to move, which is decent. But if you try to lower it to about 5, which is the lowest your character's movement can ever get, you can move up to 20 squares in any individual location. And if you combine this with a special skill, which is another thing for our handy-dandy little papers here. We have so many papers. But this is a strategy RPG. We have to have papers. We have to have it. We have special skills, which is SS. SS skills. Let's just say that. Let's just put SS skills, right? SS skills. There's one called Ninja Dash. Now, this is also a fusible item. You can fuse this, I think it's a tier 12 or 13 item that you can fuse in the guild. And this ability will reduce your movement cost by 4 ability points for every square of movement you move. For example, if it costs you 10 ability points, action points, to move a single square, if you have this equipped to your character, it will only cost you 6 ability points to move forward a square, which will probably add about 2 to 3 squares that you could total move in your movement radius, which does count, because you can now reach further away enemies to attack them. And you can also run away from enemies, and it'll take them longer to catch up to you. So what you want to prioritize is, at least what I prioritized, if you just plan to beat the game, you want to prioritize weapon. That's primary. You want your highest tier item to be your weapon, so that's your damage capability. And then accessories. Don't worry about items. Don't worry about them. You won't really need them. In accessories, you only get 4 accessory slots, and you can equip items in this accessory slot too. The only way you can use a healing item is to equip it into an accessory slot. That's the only way you can use it in battle. So don't worry about them, honestly. You don't really need them at all, honestly. If you can equip spells to do everything healing items will do. If you just give every character a quick heal, you pretty much remove the need to use any healing item. And if you give most of your characters the recover ability, you remove the need to use any status ailment recovering a healing item. So don't worry about healing items, just don't worry about them. Every healing item you equip also has a weight to it and will increase your character's weight anyway, so you don't want to do healing items, don't worry about them. Just worry about accessories. That is the next tier of importance. Accessories will have various modifiers. For example, some accessories will increase your stats, but also give you a special modifier onto your character. For example, let's say you give your character a run like the wind item. This run like the wind may give you high evasion, give you an extra evasion, high evasion points when you equip this accessory slot, but it will also teach you tailwind. Well, not teach you, but have it be a passive skill onto your character so long as this item is equipped. That way you don't have to add tailwind into your special skill slot, because unlike the action skills, which you can have up to 5 as you rank up, you can only ever have 3 special skills onto your character at any given time. So if you want to free up a slot and not have to put tailwind onto your character, you can equip this accessory that has tailwind as a passive skill when you have this equipped onto your character, yada yada yada. That's what you want to do. You want to worry about accessories that give you passive abilities. For example, the Goddess Earrings, which is a tier 14 ability that is pretty easy to fuse together. All you need to do is collect 2 stone alchemies, fuse 1 stone alchemy with a rune mail, which is the armor that a spearman has on floor 50 of the catacombs. So if you give your character a get armor, let me see, get armor, which is in the same category as get AS. What that means is when a character who has get armor as a special skill equipped kills an enemy, they will get that enemy's equipped armor. All of the spearmen on floor 50 of the catacombs, which is the floor that also gives you the stone alchemy from the alchemist, will have rune mail equipped. Kill a spearman with the get armor character and you will get a rune armor. Fuse a stone alchemy with a rune armor to make heat armor, which is a tier 13 weapon. Then fuse another stone alchemy with the heat armor to create the Goddess Earrings, which is a tier 14 accessory slot. The Goddess Earrings gives you a passive skill when you equip it to a character called the Anti-Awe. What that means is basically like the ribbon in Final Fantasy games. The ribbon basically makes you immune to all status ailments. So equipping Goddess Earrings onto a character makes them immune to all status ailments. You're going to want this for all of your main party members for the later floors, because the alchemists are going to love casting status ailments. They're also going to have a lot of zone skills. Let's talk about zones. Well, no, I don't need to talk about zone skills. As I told you before on, which one here? This one. As I told you before with all these little teams and all this, you will have a tutorial that teaches you about all of the stuff, including things like zone skills. But I will give you a brief overview. A zone skill is a skill that you can equip to your units, or the enemies can have it equipped to their units that give you a passive ability that activates every time you end your turn or any time a character or an enemy enters your area. Every character has an area that lights up yellow when you click on that character. This yellow area is their special area that allows them to use zone skills and team attacks. If the enemy is in their area, their special area, their zone, and multiple ones of your characters have a single enemy in their zone as well, they will all be able to use a team attack on that single character that is in their mutual area, zone. Now, if an ally is also in your zone, and let's say your zone is evasion plus 20%, right? Then, so long as your ally is in your zone, they will have an extra 20% to their evasion stat, so long as they stand close to you in your zone. And some enemies will have abilities like Stone, which will cast any character who stands in their area. They'll turn them into stone at the end of that enemy's turn, which means having goddess earrings equipped will negate the stone effect when you get into an enemy special area. You're gonna want these. They're very valuable. Getting to floor 50 of the catacombs is not hard at all. You can farm these items and make these items very quickly. Anyways, that's accessories, the breakdown for that. The next tier of stuff you'll probably want to worry about is maybe armor. Because armor is how you will get the majority of your defenses. You have two different types of armor, which is physical heavy armor, which gives you more physical defense but low magical defense. And then there's the magical armor, the light armor, robes and stuff, which gives you high magical defense but lower physical defense. I recommend equipping the light armor, the magic armor, especially onto your physical characters. Even though that makes their physical defense lower, they already have a naturally high physical defense to begin with. But their magic defense is going to be incredibly low. So if an alchemist, an enemy spellcaster, attacks you, you're going to take huge damage. And spells are long-ranged, so you're going to have to run up to them anyways to kill them. So they're going to have far more opportunities to attack you than physical attackers are going to get. So giving them the magic armor, the big higher magic defense armors, the light armors, is far better, because you can also equip higher tier magic defense armors because they're lighter. They don't weigh as much, so you don't have to worry about that with the weight and all of that stuff. Because everything you equip will have weight to it. You have to worry about these things because you don't want your movement stat getting too high. You want to maintain it between 10 and 5. That is the best way to keep your characters mobile, being able to take many steps per turn. Which is important because in the higher floors, your enemies are going to have very low movement, so they'll be able to pretty much run all from across from one side of the board to the other in a single turn. They could jump from one side to the other because their movement is so high. You need to have high movement as well. And the final one, which isn't that important, would be headgear. Headgear will give you smaller stat boosts, but it's just there to give you a couple extra points if you need it. It's not super important, but if you're stacked for weight, then just give yourself a tier 1 or tier 2 headgear to reduce your weight by 20 to 30 pounds or something like that. And you should be able to lower your movement by a point or so. It depends. That's a breakdown of weapons, armor, items, and all that stuff. And the catacombs. Let's talk about the extra floors from 51 to 9 to 100. You have to get to chapter 5, and you'll do a series of side quests where you'll come up against an enemy called Gregory. That's his name. He's just a generic axeman unit, but you'll be facing him again and again and again. And every time you face him in a side quest, he will cast a certain limiter onto your team. I don't know how he does it. It's just a challenge for fighting him. The first time you fight him, he will seal the attack command. But there's a way around this called the move and attack. When you click movement, if an enemy stands within your movement area and you have enough action points remaining to move to that area right in front of the enemy and attack them, then that move here item will turn into move and attack. That is the way to circumvent the attack seal. So you will have to use move and attack to kill all of the enemies in Gregory's first challenge stage. That will open up floors 51 to 60. The second time you fight Gregory, he will seal the items command, the items ability. You won't be able to use items in battle. But since I never used items in battle to begin with, this didn't bother me. I killed everybody easily. And that opened up floors 61 to 75, if I remember correctly. After you beat Gregory a third time, when you fight Gregory a third time, he will seal the team attacks command, which I already told you briefly what team attacks do. He will seal that. And if you don't worry about team attacks, if you're not worried about that, if you don't use that, I had stopped using them outside of the overkilling. Team attacks are great for overkilling the enemies when you're trying to unlock the 4 characters. Once you have already unlocked the 4 secret characters, you don't need to worry about team attacks and overkilling anymore. So I got rid of the special skill slot that enabled team attacks, which is called Combo Rush, Combo Slash, Combo Flame. If you don't worry about team attacks, then you don't need to use those combo items equipped to your character, whatever. He seals team attacks for the third time you fight him. This opens up floors 76 to 90. And for you beating him the fourth time, he will seal the skill attack. Skills such as using quick heal or any of your special abilities, special physical attacks that are unique to each of the party members. He will seal all of your skills abilities. So you will only be able to use the thing called move and attack to attack enemies. And that's not that difficult. If you're a decent level, if you're high enough level, you should be able to do this without any issues. And then that will open up floors 91 to 100 of the catacombs. And then we entered the final thing I did in this game. The final thing, the absolute most difficult thing that I don't recommend anybody doing unless you just want to 100% this game. Floor 100 of the catacombs is your final encounter with Gregory. All the enemies are going to be level 99. And he's going to do every single ability seal that you did all previous times you encountered him. So, at the start of the battle, he will seal your attack command. If you kill 2 to 3 of his enemies, he will next seal your ability to use items. They will stack. So both attack commands and the ability to use items will be sealed. Kill 2 to 3 more of his henchmen, and he will then seal your ability to use team attacks. Kill 2 to 3 more of his henchmen, and then he will seal your ability to use skills. So all that remains is being able to attack. You will not be able to heal your characters after this. So this was where I was down to the wire. With no way to heal my characters or revive them from battle if they died. This is when my units started to die. Avis was the first one to go. I had him jump in to sacrifice himself to stand in front of a bunch of Axemen units. Axemen deal severely high damage. And 2 to 3 of those hits on Linnea would kill her. 2 to 3 of those hits on Tia would kill her. Basically, I had Avis sacrifice himself. He had already defeated 2 to 3 enemies, so I had him get in the middle to tank all the attacks, and they killed him. On my next turn, I had Spiro and Gray and Visor take out the Axemen, which successfully. And Archer took out Visor. He went down. And then I had Spiro and Gray take out that Archer. Then we had Spearman, who tried going after Linnea. I had her avoid damage and all of that stuff, but then Tia got hit by the Spearman, and she went down. Once I stopped was unable to use healing abilities, I had to start worrying about putting Spiro in harm's way. Because if Spiro goes down, it doesn't matter if all 5 of your other party members are alive, it's game over. So I had to start being more conservative with Spiro. I started sending Gray out to take out more enemies, with Spiro being more in the background to not be in harm's way, because his HP was starting to get a little low. And that's when Gray went down. Now we had 2 enemies on the enemy side, an Archer and Gregory, and then I had Spiro and Linnea on my side. Linnea is an Archer, so she was able to take pot shots at a bunch of enemies, and luckily she had almost full HP. She had like maybe 1700 HP left, so I had her go in front of Spiro, because Spiro had already taken his turn. He killed there were 3 enemies left, and 2 enemies for me. Spiro's turn, he killed one of the enemies, so there were 2 left, right? Well, Linnea had to jump in front. I had to have Linnea get in front of the enemies, because if Spiro went down, it's game over. So I had Linnea go in front, take out the Archer. All that remained was Gregory, and Gregory got both physical attacks. Both of his times to use a physical attack, they both landed on Linnea, and she went down. This was it. I had 1 turn left to beat this fight, to beat this level. I just had 1 turn. And luckily Spiro was very close to Gregory. I just needed to move 2 steps forward to get in front of Gregory, and I was able to attack him 3 times. He landed all 3 hits. Gregory went down. That was the closest fight I had ever done up until this point in the game. It was the absolute closest fight I had ever done. Because normally I didn't want anybody to die in battle. Because when your character dies in battle, they will come back. You don't lose them forever. But what does get lost is 5 points to your luck skill. Every time a character dies, you lose 5 points to your luck skill. And you normally can't afford to lose luck. Luck is an incredibly valuable resource that increases your evasion stat, increases your accuracy stat. It's also calculated for critical hit ratios, evade attack ratios. It is used for everything. The lower your luck stat keeps getting, because you keep dying in battle, the more you will die in battle. The less you'll evade attacks, the less critical hits you'll make. It's just going to be a hard time all around. So whenever 1 person died, I would restart the game. I didn't this time. I didn't restart the game once Avis went down, because this was the final fight. This was the final battle. It didn't matter if these characters lost luck points, because once I beat this fight, I never needed to fight ever again. This was the last thing I had to do. And 5 of my units passed, and I had just Spiro left. That was insane. It was insane. I knew I could have prepared a little bit more. I could have grinded to create a couple more items. There is a tier 16 spell ability called Auto Counter, which you could teach your characters, which will have them automatically counter instead of having a percentage chance to counterattack. And this is good, because when your character counterattacks, they only take half damage they would normally otherwise take, and then they would counterattack on the enemy's turn, which helps immensely. I didn't have that on anybody except for Gray. I only had Gray have 50% counter on. I didn't even give him auto counter. It was just a lot of grinding that I didn't want to do. But if you did that, then Floor 100 would be a walk in the park. But I just wanted to get it over with. I was getting a little burned out. I just wanted to get it out. I just was going to give it 1 shot. And luckily I did it in 1 shot. That's Stella Deus. I did a lot more than what anybody would probably be willing to do. This game is a 6.5 to me because of a couple things. It loses a point, maybe a point and a half, because of the weak story. Almost all of the characters have very little to do. They have very little growth. They have very little like personality. There's like one note to their characters. Like Gray is a tsundere. That's all you learn about him. He has nothing else to his character. Most of these guys have nothing. Maybe Lumena would be the only one that has a big personality growth throughout the game, because she learns halfway through the game that the church that she had been a high priestess for, she had been falsely teaching the churchhood the wrong thing for years, and that the deity on high actually wants you to fight for survival and not just give up and die. And so she learns the error of her ways and tries to rectify this, and joins your party and takes action. And that's a pretty good story compared to everybody else, who don't really have anything. The weakest would have to be Adara and Gray, because they're just there. They joined Spiro and his first major fight after the 2-year time skip, and they never do anything ever again. There's nothing with them. Visor has very little personality. He has very little cutscenes. I loved Jade, though. Jade is very entertaining whenever you see him as an enemy. He's very entertaining, and he's one of the very most useful characters to use in battle once you collect him. Especially earlier on, before you get the ability to fuse the get item abilities, because Jade comes with almost all of them automatically learned. You can learn get weapon, get armor, get accessory, get all of that stuff. Visor comes with get AS, Echidna comes with get SS, so between those three you can collect everything that the enemies have equipped, which is very useful. I eventually fused items to teach get armor, get weapon, and all that stuff, and I gave it to everybody on my team so that I was collecting everybody's gear, all the enemies' gear after defeating them in battle. So I was grinding all of that stuff to collect a bunch of that stuff every time in the floors of the catacombs so that I could fuse better items. I did this simply because I needed the higher tier weapons to survive the higher floors of the catacombs. Because without them, you were dead. Like, floor 100 is insane. You needed high damage, but you also needed low movement, so you sacrificed higher tier armor, so your defense would also be pretty low. The enemy's attacks would be dealing anywhere between 400 to 1,000 HP of damage, and if they got a team attack in, it might deal anywhere between 1,600 to 2,000 points in damage. It was over if you got attacked, ganged up on. It was pretty much over. And the amount of grinding it would take to fuse higher tier armor, which would raise movement, which means I would be able to move less spaces during attacks, during turns, which would give the enemies more chances to attack me. There were a lot of things that you have to think about and strategize on that final floor. There's so much stuff that you have to learn about. And the gameplay-wise, the combat, I have very little problems with. Combat is fine. I have no problems with that whatsoever. My main con, which removes the next 2 points from my ruling, giving it a 6.5, is item fusion. I despise item fusion in this game, in most games that have them. Some games do okay item fusion. Games like Dragon Quest VIII, games like Rogue Galaxy, Level 5 made that one a very, very, very good game. They have item fusion in it, but they only have specific scenarios. For example, to make a feathered cap, you would have like an iron helmet and a feather. You'll make a feathered cap. That makes sense. That does, right? Well, in games like Stella Deus, if you fuse an axe and a sword, you may get a potion. That doesn't make sense. None of these fusions in this game make sense. Every item can fuse with every item to create a random item. Generally, the general consensus is the item tiers. 2 tier 1 items could create a tier 1 item, or they could create a tier 2 item. A tier 2 item and a tier 1 item could create a tier 2 item, or may create a tier 1 item. 2 tier 2 items could create a tier 3 item, or it could create a tier 2 item. 2 tier 3 items could create a tier 4 item, or it could create a tier 3 item. Etc., 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 going all the way up to tier 16. And let's say you have maybe 20 plus fusion recipes for a single item, which gets grating, irritating, frustrating, infuriating. It really does get infuriating, because I have to keep in my memory all of these fusion recipes. And I don't deny that I used a guide for this, because I despised this. I despised this! I used a guide because I didn't want to do trial and error on all of these fusion items. I looked up a list of all of the recipes to create the best weapons and gear in the game, and just went on fusion trees to create those, because I was not playing this the way they wanted me to, blindly. I was not playing their item fusion game. Over half of my playtime was spent fusing items to create other items that I tended to fuse to create other items. That was most of my gameplay. It wasn't spent in the combat. It was spent in item fusion. I despise it. I do. I despise item fusion. I would have taken 3 points away if I wasn't so fond of the combat. So I only took 2 points away, just from item fusion, which I absolutely friggin' hate. It's got a weak story and terrible item fusion. But the combat is really enjoyable. It's an actually very decent tactical RPG once you get to the actual combat. Unfortunately, there's not too many unique units. You'll be fighting mostly generic units for the entire game, which is unfortunate. But that's what you gotta take. That's what you gotta accept. Is that there's not too many unique units. There's not too many variety of enemies. You'll be fighting the same enemies over and over and over and over and over and over again. The only difference is the numbers and the gear that the enemies have equipped. Because the enemies can do exactly what you can do. They can equip the exact same items, they can equip the exact same skills and abilities, and they will use those skills and abilities against you. So you will have to use your own tactics and your own item pool to strategize on how to defeat them. That's the core concept of a tactical, strategical RPG. It's like chess in a way, you know. If you're a fan of chess, you're probably gonna love these types of games. I pretty much like chess. I'm not a master. I don't know the fancy move names or anything like that. I prefer RPGs to chess, but it's still fun. It's still a fun time. There's just far better strategy RPGs out there. But if you are a big Atlas fan and you want to play all of the Atlas games, then Stella Deus is going to be on that list. So let this feature-length review be a warning to you.